going with our witches first.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome to the Distaff Podcast. We are very excited to be finishing up our stay in the colonies here pretty soon. Last week we did a deep dive into the Hugh and Mary Parsons case, right?
Yeah. Well, no, witch trials. We did witch trials.
Oh, we did Salem. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to take us back to Springfield, and we're going to take us back to, actually, we're going to start with the day that Mary and Hugh Parsons were put in the cart and dragged off to Boston. And here we are in Springfield, and I'm going to look at how the villagers react. They kind of we talked about how weird that must have felt to realize that you just put your neighbor in a cart to be taken to Boston to be executed for witchcraft. And we talked about all the reasons the town felt like they could, and how strange that must have felt. And we wondered, like, were they ashamed, or had they scared themselves, or but this testimony, Simon Beeman comes to us, and Simon Beeman, again, is the only one that attended the trial and made the journey. Here he is testifying in the next Springfield witch trials against Mary Bliss Parsons, a totally different couple, totally different group of people. She is Our Lady.
Yeah.
Yes. So she is one of our grandmothers. And Simon Beeman, instead of maybe slinking home and having a nap after that horrible moment of, his neighbors are accused of witchcraft and heading out the door, and their 4-year-old's left standing there with someone, he testifies that at about the time the witches were apprehended to be sent to Boston. So, around that time, he takes us back to that moment of them sending Hugh and Mary off to Boston. He starts to stir it back up, and he says, Mr. Moxon's children were taken ill in their fits. And he says in parentheses, which we took to be bewitched. So the village is not backing down. The village, Mr. Moxon's children are sick with those illnesses.
Yeah.
And their response is, we took to be bewitched. And at the same time was Mary Parsons, the wife of Joseph Parsons, and others, taken with the like fits, so that they were all carried out of the meeting, it being Sabbath day. As Mr. Moxon's children acted, so did Mary Parsons, the wife of Joseph Parsons. Just all one. And I have diverse times been with them all, and I could discern no difference in their fits. That reminds me of Salem and Ann Putnam in a weird way.
And we're talking 40 years ahead before, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah. We're talking, they're not ashamed that they're in it. And at least Simon is. And here it is, Sabbath day with Mr. Moxon. And instead of the steam valve being released with sending off Mary and Hugh, they're doubling down on it in church. And his people are taking it in fits in the church. And
that's interesting.
Our grandmother, Mary Parsons, the wife of Joseph Parsons, had to be carried out of the meeting along with the children. And it says, as the Moxon's children acted, so did Mary Parsons. And then he says, and once I carried Mary Parsons home to the Long Meadow when she was in her fits. This is our grandmother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when she was at home and came to herself, she wondered how she came there. And by the way, as I carried her behind me, I was fain to hold her up on the horse. And I discerned that she did not understand herself nor where she was. And she would often cry out of the witches and call to Hannah Smith that they might creep under Goodwife Warrener's bed. or else the witches would kill them, she said. And I have at other times been helping to hold her when she hath been in her fits, and found it as much as 2 men could do to hold her in her fits. He so he's testifying this in he's kind of the first people to accuse the same time they just sent another witch off,
Right.
Mary Bliss Parsons of witchcraft, and it starts again in Springfield. What's interesting, so that was 1652, the winter of it, when Hugh and Mary Parsons were carried away. Malcolm Glasgow said fear spread even into the native communities in the autumn of 1650s. The Mohegans asked colonists to help him find the witches among his own people.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? They spread their fear into this group that's had their own spiritual practices and belief, or so at the same time they're spreading Christianity and, you know, the Bible, they're also spreading their fear and it's
Yeah.
so it's not just smallpox that they're, you know.
No, it's not, they are spreading a certain type of spirituality, but it's definitely not heading towards peace and unity.
No, and I'm surprised because I always picture that moment when they put Hugh and Mary, and they put Sarah Merrick and one other woman, Bess
Mhm.
Sewell, the
Mhm.
lady that showed up first with the pudding. They all put him on the cart and they right? They all went
Yep.
to and Pynchon is gone to their leader, their fearless leader, and I always picture that it would have been, "Oh, what did we just do?" You know?
Right.
Or, "Oh," or they go read their scriptures and have their prayer study that night and s s to have any spiritual, it's like
But
they're completely cut off from any personal spiritual revelation or
or common sense.
yeah,
And it's like, as we see over and over again in these cases and the ones going on in neighboring towns, it's the women who want to be the voice of reason. It's the voice of reason that is then turned into the witch.
yeah,
So they're murdering any kind of logic or reason or good spirituality. They're
yeah,
murdering Christianity, basically, their version of it.
mhm,
And
yeah,
yeah, John Eliot in that same time wrote that Springfield has exposed 4 witches. Springfield was surely the hub of the plot. So it was kind of being known as this cesspool of witchcraft. So they didn't have any kind of a sacred pause or solemn
no,
assembly. And then Hobbes said, though he could not rationally believe in witches, yet he could not be fully satisfied believing that they were that Springfield did not have witchcraft.
and then we kinda wanna say, "Well, maybe they did," right? So maybe they did, but it wasn't the evil kind, or maybe that's not even what you would call witchcraft. They definitely had healers. That
Yeah,
Mary Parsons, Bliss Parsons, who you're talking about that had all the fits, she was the one wandering, and I talk about her all the time, but
yeah,
wandering in the
wrote,
swamps, and she knew how to find the key every time her husband hid it.
yeah,
She but she had lost a baby and had severe depression, I'm sure,
yeah.
and after the baby died, she was the one, are you gonna get to this? Probably. And,
No, keep going.
she would wander the swamps, and then people would see her wandering, and then that was weird, and that was mystical, and then she didn't get wet when she wandered, she came back dry, and her husband, Joseph, who we know abused her
Mhm,
and locked her in the cellar, and
mhm.
and and, um, I don't know, I think women 'cause Mary Lewis Parsons, after her baby died, the same kinda thing. So women must know that losing a baby sets off something in postpartum or losing your baby, just the grief of it, that I wonder if anyone spoke up or said, "No, that's just" I don't
Well, it
know.
is
Were
that's
women not defending each other?
no, and I think that as we see in Mary Parsons in this trial, that's the the tragedy, as you see these women hovering in groups and covens almost in each other's houses, and anything someone says, they're quick to, as we talked about, like, "Oh, this must," you know, "Hugh Parsons is up in the tree, he must be a witch," and you were
Right.
making those connections, and it becomes almost like a knee jerk, like everyone's listening for it and turning people's words around. And let's talk about Mary Parsons. Like, do you want to? Do you want to talk
Yeah.
a bit
Oh,
about her?
she's fascinating, yes.
Um, before so what I'm gonna do is in 1656 is when um Mary, so from the day that the witches left Springfield, and that day we're talking about, we're in the church with Reverend Moxon leading. His children got fits, and our grand Mary Bliss Parsons had to be carried out in fits. Um, it was 4 years of the simmering. It was, let's see, 16, about 4 years of the simmering cauldron in Springfield, with
Mhm.
people just um, accusing each other of being witches. And the cauldron kind of, as I'll kind of do a quick timeline and then I'll go to her specific story. But the cauldron extended out to these towns we've talked about, like Windsor, Wethersfield, Hartford,
Hartford. Mhm.
and Gascon says that all of these towns were plunged into a schism and horrible prejudice against each other.
Yes.
So it was bad magic happening.
And bad business, you know?
Bad business, which we know is main
It's
is
the heart
the
of it all, yeah.
yeah. So, so I guess I'll go to, um, maybe okay, I'm just gonna give you the dirty details about Mary Parsons to give you an overview. Then I'm gonna take us right into the testimonies of the Springfield people of why they think Mary Bliss, what
Okay.
she had been doing for those 4 years that were getting them all freaked out. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So in our book, Witch Hunting, I'm going to quickly review what the editor says. Give us a look into Mary Parsons. And since she's our grandmother, you know a lot about this family, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But
Mhm.
Mary Bliss Parsons was the wife of Joseph Parsons, a merchant and political figure in the Connecticut River Valley, and they settled in Springfield in the late 1630s. Um, due to all this stuff in Springfield, they moved north to Northampton in 1654. Um, there, the family, which included 11 children, became members of the church in Northampton. So in 1656, Mary was involved in a defamation suit initiated by her husband against a neighbor, Sarah Bridgman, for slander. Sarah and her husband, James, blamed Mary for the death of her young son. The defamation suit produced further testimony against Mary, including description of conflict between wife and husband and her seeming fits. Still,
Yeah.
other neighbors, including Springfield magistrate John Pynchon, sided with the Parsonses. The Parsonsons won that case. So we'll start with that. What can you tell us about? Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Bliss family or Mary
Yeah,
Parsons?
they're prominent, they're well respected, they're rich, but there's a lot of them. So I think that's why it, you can't group them all as moral, upstanding people, but they are pretty tight-knit, and so some of them stayed in Northampton, some did go to Springfield, right? As soon as
Mhm.
Mary was accused of witchcraft, her mom and her brother moved to Springfield, right? Or was that the
Yeah.
second time?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they're that looking out for each other that they pick up and move, or they were that wealthy that they could just pick up and move, you know? She had a big house, um,
True, and she
you know
did when her husband died, she was really wealthy, so they must have had a lot of money. Um, yeah, that's true. And they're
sorry,
coming from what's wrong?
my cat's doing something weird. Okay.
Are you a witch?
He's like, this okay. He's licking his nose over and over.
Oh.
Are you okay? Okay, sorry. Okay.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, so okay, so she's just a normal girl. The Bliss family is very intertwined with, our Prudence Morgan and Miles Morgan family.
yes, for
And so they're
sure.
really and Pynchon, if Pynchon is testifying for them, you know, they're part of the in group, and I'm trying to
Yeah,
see.
and he's not consistent, so when it's a bliss, he comes up with different fines or punishments or he quits or there's
Yeah,
definitely respect enough for the Bliss family that they are not. Because again, there's a lot of them. But if
right.
you're a Bliss, you're good to go, basically.
It is interesting because, yeah, they are down in the southern part of Springfield with the other they're not they're with Henry Burt, they're with Samuel Wright. Margaret Bliss, the mother, has 14 acres, so she's got quite a bit. Joseph Parsons, her son, has 8. So Joseph and Mary live right next door to their mother-in-law, Margaret
Yeah,
Bliss.
and she's the one that complained about the water bugging her because she's kinda by the
Oh,
mill, right? So she's bugged by the water. She's just on the court record, she's just all over the place with complaints.
she
She
is, and
and the Marshfield, these widows are high maintenance.
they are very high maintenance
She
because
sued,
yeah,
she sued Anthony Dorchester, remember he's the one that
this is Margaret
lived.
Bliss, the mother.
Yeah,
Yes,
she sued the tenant or whatever of Hugh Parsons of letting his swine ruin her Indian corn,
that's right.
but she lost the case, so that's one thing, she lost the case. Remember Anthony Dorchester, this is after Hugh is gone, ends up being the wealthiest person in town, so money matters,
Okay.
but yeah, so she's a high maintenance widow,
Well, and
and you
she
can't really
lives
mess with her kids.
right by George Langton, the pudding guy, right?
Yeah.
Right next
So
door.
they're in Longmeadow down south.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
they're
Yeah.
down there. So, so yeah, they're not up in the northern end with Miles and Henry Smith and all those people, but they definitely are connected.
Mhm. Maybe they're
So,
the new money set.
I think they are because they moved to the new planned community up in Northampton.
Yes,
Where
right.
things got a
That's
little
right.
hot.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Which okay, so I just wanna talk about then I wanna get us in that swirling world, and I'm gonna do that by using the testimonies of in this defamation case that, of course, happened a little later, but
Yeah.
they're all talking about this time period of 1652 or whatever. Um, and it says sorry.
You're fine.
So in Springfield, September 8th, they by the court of Henry Burt, they call, Sarah Bridgman and James Bridgman, to court, answering the complaint of Joseph Parsons against slandering his wife, Mary. And I'm just going to go through some of these testimonies that all took place back in this time. And I'm going to do it quickly. And you know a lot about it too, but it kind of fills in a little bit for us. Was she a witch? Was she not? Was she
Right.
crazy? Was she a troublemaker?
Were they
Who
all yeah.
who are these people?
Yes, who are the Blisses? Because they are all over the place. Yeah.
So the first person that talks is William Hannon's wife, and they're neighbors in Northampton, but they are from Windsor, which is like the hotbed of gossip for some reason.
It is.
Um,
They have a really, I think they have a really gossipy or drama preach reverend who likes to stir it up.
that's right. And by this time, Windsor has already executed one witch, Alice Young, who was executed and hanged in 1647. Um, she will come back into the story. She is interesting because guess who marries her in
Yeah.
1654? Simon Beeman marries the daughter of one of the first witches executed. The
Mhm.
guy that's like the crying wolf about witches every minute.
Yeah.
I wonder how that conversation went.
I know.
But anyway, and Widow Marshfield, there was lots of gossip about her being a witch in
Mhm.
Windsor. So that same gossip carries with our Mary Bliss Parsons to Springfield from Windsor and up to Northampton. And this wife of William Hannon says, I've been warned by some of Windsor to beware how I had to do with Mary, the wife of Joseph Parsons. And she herself also told me when she lay in of her last child and being ill in a strange fit, that the occasion of her illness was that, so she's having a fit, laying in with her last child. This is William Hannon's wife, that this woman said that Mary was suspected to be a witch. So here we've got a
Now
childbirth
why did they
room,
do that?
childbirth room. You know how the midwife was bound to get people to confess of who had slept with them or whatever.
Right,
And now
right.
we've
Like
got
the
witch
moral
confessions
right.
happening here, which is very odd.
How would
And
that
then
happen in a birth room?
I don't know unless it's been an evil spirit has entered the birth room. I don't, they just don't, there's no positivity going on, I don't think. And I
'Cause
think, their kids are dying, right? They're all sick.
right.
Um,
So,
it's not
okay, I'm gonna say a weird thing then. So, you
good.
know how Mary, Lewis Parsons lost her baby, and then the way she thought she had become a witch is because the devil came to her in the shape of her baby, and she got to hold it one night. And
Mhm.
are they in the throes of childbirth so freaked out that they're making when their minds compacts with the devil for everything to go correctly? Are they so far removed from pleading to their own God? Are they not allowed to plead to God, so the only other option is to contract with the devil for miracles? Or how does that
We need to dig into that a little bit because they did have the tradition of churching in birth in
okay.
England. And churching, remember, if you go to the Danish people, it's very literal, but the English people had the same Norse traditions or whatever that when you were pregnant, you were unchurched in a ceremony at
So,
the church,
literally off the books of Israel.
literally unchurched because
So,
you were
excommunicated.
unclean. You were outside of the
So
realm of your God.
so this is what is
And so
happening then maybe?
I think so what would replace that then is the child bedroom, the superstitions, the keep the door open, the red strings they would tie, all these things in these older cultures because she's not allowed in church anymore. She's outside of the church's control when she is pregnant until the baby is 6 weeks old. And then at one point in Denmark specifically, you you have a churching ceremony, which So the baby gets brought to the church to be baptized. The mom can't go yet. 6 weeks later, there's a side porch in Denmark churches, which is called the waiting porch or the mother's porch. And in England, I've noticed they had that as well.
Are the Denmark Protestant at this point?
They're
Okay.
Lutheran.
So this is the same kind of okay.
Same kind of, and it's, I wish I had my Danish. When we get into it, I have witnesses of the men talking about this churching ceremony and how grossed out they are by it. But the women come to the porch. So they literally cannot call on God during these scary
Yeah,
pregnancy
that
times.
makes so much
They are
sense.
separated. So who do you
Who do you in your scariest moment, there's someone that can help you out in
I
their
mean,
brain.
and if you weren't a smart person, the things the midwife was doing to alleviate pain or literally turn that baby around in the womb, um, you know,
You would think
there's a
that would
reason the men wouldn't enter the childbirth room because she was outside he would have his prayer separately with the minister because she was outside the purview of the church. She was unchurched.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
It,
then of course.
so then the churching ceremony in Denmark, they have hymn books with specific hymns just for this ritual. And it's the only ritual where women basically take over the church. And so she goes to this waiting room. He blesses her. She's churched, rebaptized, church cleansed, brought back into the community. And when the minister talks with her, and then he opens the door, and that she's in white, and all her ladies are in white, and they walk down the aisle
That's
of the
very
church
pagan.
singing. There are
Okay.
only songs that you sing on the churching day. And the mother walks out of the side door, cleansed, now rebirthed into the community and into the graces of God. And they circle the altar, the women do. And they're chanting and they're singing these songs only for um, this ceremony. And so it
Do you think the Puritans did that? Did the Puritans do that?
know that the English did. Do I think they did it the same way the Danes did? No, because the Danish way of absorbing Lutheranism into their Old Norse practices was very practical.
Okay.
Like, we're going to just put our Mass day on top of your
Okay.
May Day. And they didn't see it quite. They made some allowances for the old traditions. The English
Did
they had the porch.
mm.
You'll read things of churching. And so in my mind, part of that fear that a woman has is really primal. Or if she's a very religious woman, you are living outside the bounds of all your prayers.
So
And
what do you call on? What were they calling on? Could they call on
well, that's what I think your comment is so interesting because yeah, if you're a mother, they call on
each
their
other?
spirit, the cunning women, the smart women, and in English, they didn't have the cunning women who was actually a priestess almost, but they had
Right.
and we could see that getting bastardized
Right.
in the midwives. So the midwife could heal, she could calm, she could pray, they could sing. It was like this only place that women's religion or whatever was given validity or power, was allowed to have some power.
And then I know that eventually around this time, then reverends were allowed in the birthing room. They would and maybe then that was the one so don't call on the devil, you can call on the man over there in the corner to pray for you or whatever. But
Yeah, maybe he was a token of
not a lot of them like to do a lot of the reverends would do that, but that was what we talked about in the midwife, episode, the transition then to doctors and
yeah, exactly. And many, there are journals from ministers in Denmark where they make it very clear, when it's a pregnant woman, um, I don't have what's the word?
Jurisdiction?
Yeah, I don't have jurisdiction over her body or her spirit.
Wow,
So
what?
they, like, wash their
Why?
hands of, it God has if your baby dies, it's not God's fault. This is
But
my opinion. This is my opinion.
but
Um,
all evidence kinda shows that was the thought.
so yeah, so and if we trace it to England, which we haven't done a deep dive into it, but that idea of them bringing these practices over blended with this new world religion they're trying to create.
Right.
Um, I mean, it's really scary. Like one of the ladies here, Goodwife Bridgman, who was the lady who was speaking the worst about Mary, said, last May, she was in her child bed about 3 days after she gave birth. I was sitting with my child in my lap. There was something that gave a great blow on the door, and at that very instant, as I apprehended, my child changed. And I thought with myself and told my girl I was afraid my child would die, and I sent out the girl to look who I was at the door, but could see nobody. Presently, the girl came back, and I looked towards the door through a hole by the door. I saw two women pass by the door with white cloths on their head, and then I concluded my child would die. This made me think there is wickedness in the place. Um, and then, so here's another example of the childbirth room, which is vulnerable.
Yeah. Who were the 2 women with their cloths on their head?
She doesn't know. But to me,
So
that's an
she thought they
old,
were gonna die, she thought they were from the other side coming to get her.
maybe, I mean, I bet if we trace that, it'll be a folk belief from England,
Uh-huh.
you know? But so and she ended up saying Mary Parsons
Yes.
ties her to this. So
And her
Mary
son says Mary Parsons, right?
Yes, because then she said in this same talk, she says, "My 11-year-old last summer went to look for our cows in the swamp. Something hit him a great blow to his head, and then 2 logs, fell out of the sky basically onto his legs, pulled his knee out of joint, and he was in grievous torture. He was in torture for a month, and then he woke up one night and said Goody Parsons was pulling at his knee." Um And he says she sits on the shelf and she's gone and a mouse follows her. And, um, and then the husband says, "Yes, this happened. He cried out. He cried out his knee would be pulled off by Goody Parsons." Um, so they're both saying that. So that's, a testifying about children being hurt. But anyway, yeah. So what you
Yeah,
were saying about this, I don't know. It's just really women are vulnerable as helpers and healers, and as they speak out, as they use words and they try to be logical and reason, it's a weaponized system.
and it sounds like the thing that sets off the absolute crazy fear is anything having to do with their kids. So motherhood is the scariest thing possible
Yeah,
during this time to be a mother,
yeah.
maybe?
And think about this. Mary Bliss Parsons had 12 or 11 kids. So these
Mhm.
women they were always either pregnant or in their childbirth bed, which means
They weren't
they
churched,
were they were not
cut
unchurched.
off
They
from
were
God.
cut off from God for 12, 13, 15 years. So how good of a relationship can you have with the God that in your hardest times is like
Yes. Wow, that explains a lot.
it explains Cotton Mather telling them basically, "You've done this to yourself. Get ready to die. There's nothing I
Yeah,
can do for you."
and it's it's like the men or whatever, I always hate to or
I
harp
know.
on
We
men,
love the men. I love them.
but it's like they couldn't make and even in the Bible, even let's just go there. That there's a very hard bridge that nobody has built in a has a hard time building between sex and birth.
Yeah.
Sex and a new baby. Like, the sex and the baby, there's that
Yeah.
bridge of, like, what and it's that 9-month pregnancy of a woman, and that's scary to men, right? And then it's, a literal human being growing in another human being, and that's wild.
I
And
mean, what kind of
so
witchcraft is that?
yeah, so there they they had no bridge between the act of sex, which was you get married to they had to, they needed to procreate and,
Yeah.
Pynchon brought women into his experiment village, Springfield, for a reason, to procreate and have children,
Mhm.
and yet the act of there's no bridge from I don't know, so
It
it's
is
a
true.
foggy, misty
Well,
place.
here we this wanton lust and this thing that these girls are always warned about, this fornication, which in one sentence by the priest turns you from,
Yeah.
maiden to mother.
Right,
All of a sudden, you know, it is very you can see them. You're right, it's shrouded for 9 months, even that woman's put away
right, like,
and in the
we're not
dark.
gonna build a bridge, we're not gonna talk about that, we'll just get rid of them. We don't even want them in our presence, and then, they're gonna act weird probably, and we won't know what that's all about, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're gonna have scary things and have no do wild stuff, and then we have a baby and it's great, and then they have it's just
Well, and think about what happens in that crazy womb and in that childbirth room and in that woman's body that you thought was yours as a man, and you don't have any you don't have any vision into that. And so it's and not even the woman herself really knows, but that's a lot of power to create another human being.
Mhm,
That's a lot of good medicine, good
mhm.
magic. So you can look at the native peoples who revered the children that came out and the women who, though as part of their whole community, it takes man and woman and children and old people. And then you've got these people that are so bent on separating all the different parts of their natural life and their relationships. And
Yeah, I will say it's one thing that just reminded me, I do know when I was reading about the Agawam that women would separate themselves for I don't think while they were pregnant, but
that's
for
a
the
good
birth.
point. You're
So they
right.
would go build their own hut to have the birth, though, and then they experience the whole so for them see, this is different, though. For them, it was the pain of the birth was part of was a spiritual practice. The whole experience of birth didn't separate them from their God. It was or gods. It was enhance their connection because they went really on their own. Women would come bring them food, but they really were in this wigwam or whatever by
Mhm.
themselves, giving birth themselves,
Mhm.
and, then coming back into the village and then being pampered and everything. But the separation for me wasn't a spiritual separation in my mind. It was something she did as a spiritual practice. And so here in Springfield, we have women being cut off from the spiritual.
We have a best I mean, I guess you're that is so you're so right because I wasn't thinking about the bigger picture that the in most cultures you can think of, um, women were kinda set apart. you've got the African ones, you've got,
Mm,
there was a but it wasn't I think it's just like how oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Hi, come in. I'm recording. What did you but we can cut this out.
thanks. Okay. I guess he has everybody's had colds and stuff, so
Yeah,
apparently cats get them too.
they do, but
That's
yeah,
weird.
I
Okay,
love when
so
you
I
get
love what we're
grossed out.
talking. Okay.
Um, okay, so you're right. So, I think it's almost like how James manufactured the concept of a devil, um, the idea of a woman being, you know, God can't even handle her is definitely not an old world, an old, um, truist, like what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think it's a manufactured framework.
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That makes sense.
But I don't think spiritually. That was my I think physically,
Right.
yes, and, utility out of need and cleanliness and whatever, sanit for a like you said, around the globe,
Yeah.
I mean, women will go separate themselves during their
Mhm.
period and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So but I don't think it's just interesting it would be such a
You
removal
cut
of
the
your God.
umbilical cord of your spirituality.
Yes.
But what's interest
Because from a man's perspective, he had sex with her, he did this to her, he has to let it play out, and then he gets a baby at the end, and then we'll just move on. Like
like how Hugh Parsons responded as he's the other end of the spectrum, like, it's a bother, she can't work as hard now, and,
right.
um but
Yeah.
yeah, so that explains how they couldn't keep their heads together, and the 6 weeks thing to me is interesting because even in our world, when I was having babies, I knew that at about the 6-week mark, I could feel like I could handle this new situation with my
6
baby.
weeks when the baby's 6 weeks
Uh-huh,
old. Yeah.
because the hormones calm down a little bit and,
Mhm.
um, up till then, I was, like, crazy, like, not crazy, but so in love and so worried that they were vulnerable and,
Yeah.
um
And then they would to wean the babies, they would have the moms go away too, right? So that was a
yeah,
whole other thing, and the fathers took care of the baby. So the mom actually left if they
yeah,
could, if she had someplace to go, she would physically go visit,
at the
um,
1-year mark, right?
yeah, relatives for 2, 3 weeks while they weaned. So so the
How
father
fun
was
is that?
I know. But, okay, so that's really
So,
so
we need to pay attention to this childbirth room and these fits.
yeah, and anything having to do with the fear of motherhood in general, like her boy has logs falling on him, which is either deadfall from a windy day in the woods or it's maybe the Agawam people they were
Yeah,
doing things, they were messing, there was
yeah,
there were things happening like that.
what was happening with that? Because even if the Indians are saying your witches are
Mhm.
affecting us, they were kinda there were problems, right?
I would wanna know if those were the Indian the Native Americans who were being Christianized maybe, and so they were adopting some of those
That's
superstitions,
a good point.
but if not, if they weren't and they were blaming on their witches, it just means they found one more thing to to blame, right?
Look at the damage that has done to this culture that revered women, who are now looking at
Oh,
their
yeah.
women with suspicion.
Yeah, and that will come back, that during the King Philip's War, that's a big like, this all again, we're building what's happening here is we're building towards the witch trials, which we already talked about, and then the King Philip's War, and the inevitable thing that happens from that is the Agawam leave and they never come back. Like, they
Yeah,
are literally cleansed from this area. So, they're adopting the superstition, like, it's just they're being poisoned already with this
yeah,
part of it, you know?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Okay. That's
So this is
interesting.
all, yeah. So then we've got people testifying about when they lived by in Springfield. He's a William Branch says, when I lived at the Long Meadow and Parsons lived there, Joseph Parsons told me that wherever he laid the key, his wife could find it
Mhm.
and would go out in the night, and that when she went out, a woman went out with her and came in with her.
That's what I
Um,
can't figure out. Who's that
is
woman?
is he locking Joseph? Is Joseph Parsons? Is she having such fits
Yes, and
that
she
she's
wants
trying
she
to get
loses
out?
she loses her baby, and
She
so she's
loses her
so
baby.
she lost her baby, and so she starts leaving the house at night and wandering, so he hides the key. He must have a it must be a locked from inside, and then you hide the key kinda thing, which
Was
is
she
interesting.
doing this at the time of the Hugh and Mary? Why wasn't her name drug into all this? Or
When
is
was
that,
she accused of it? Mary
I
Bliss.
guess we're saying that Beeman accused her as the cart was driving away,
Yeah, so in 1649, he's already saying she wanders the night and is looking for the key, and that's during the Hugh Parsons trial.
but no one ever mentions her. Is she
Mm-mm, 'cause
protected somehow?
she's a Bliss.
Yeah, yeah. But she
So
sounds even, I mean, she's probably the girl Mary Parsons, Hugh's wife, saw in the swamp, and
yes,
they told her, "You're seeing things."
yes,
'Cause she said, "I saw a woman at 2 women out in the swamp."
mhm, it's this lady, but I don't know who
Mm.
that other woman is. We don't know who the other woman is, and her mom doesn't live here yet, so it wouldn't be her mom.
So,
So,
yeah, so William Branch, he says this, and then he said Joseph Parsons' response to this was God preserves his with his angels. That's a weird response.
what does that mean?
Maybe he's trying to divert the fact that his wife's out in the swamp with a woman towards God and his angels, like, maybe,
Oh, it was a good angel helping her
yeah.
come home?
But then
Alright.
William Branch said, while they lived together in Long Meadow, George Colton told me that he followed Mary Parsons in a fit. He followed her through the water where he was up to his knees and she was not wet. This thing I told to Mr. Pynchon, who wondered at it, but said he could not tell me what to say about it.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that Pynchon is just like, "Okay, yeah, that's interesting," and move on, you know?
Yeah. And here's Thomas Stebbins says he also asked Pynchon about it. And because Joseph Parsons came, they must have been friends, came to him and said what he thought of such a thing as this, that when a person shall hide a thing, another shall find it wherever it is laid. He said, I hide the key of my door, my wife will find it and get out. And Mr. Pynchon, wondering at it, said he couldn't tell. So he's
It's
two
twice.
witnesses.
Yeah, on 2 separate weird things, wandering and now the key thing.
So it's so weird because all these things, like they're saying Hugh Parsons hiding knives or hiding trowels, and here, you know,
She's doing
she's
super
finding keys and
yes, and not that her husband, who says angels walk with her, I guess, now he's like, "Wait a
yeah.
minute."
So then Margaret Bliss, Mary's mother, and John Bliss, her brother, testify that their neighbors said, well, they took an oath and said, we have nothing to say against her. So
Yeah,
they're building up their people.
yep, that's the
Um, and then
Hanums.
we've got Sarah Bridgman. William, is this boring? We can
Oh,
cut it
this
out
is
if it's.
great.
William Holton then comes up and he says, Sarah Bridgman, the wife of James, told him she had jealousies and suspicion of Mary Parsons, that she could not be satisfied unless the said Mary were searched by women 3 times. So we're
And what they're searching for is the witch marks. Yeah.
yes. And in fact, right around the same time, in a nearby community, it's the Cunning Woman of Weathersfield. Um, they there was a lady there who said, "This woman is not a witch," and the lady's like, "I am." The lady accused of it is, and we can talk about it, but people kept visiting her, telling her to confess and da 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 da. She goes up to be executed. She's hung. Her body's cut down, and the woman who's trying to be the truth teller, um, they start searching her body. Like 6, 7 women keep coming to her body to search for the witch's marks. And this woman, Knapp, says,
Mhm.
"Look at these aren't marks. You have these too. We all have these marks. This is a bruise. This is a da da da." And then they charged her with
Yes.
witchcraft.
She made some joke like, "If that's a witch mark, then I
Yes.
we've all got those."
The men in the crowd are like, "I heard she did say," it was a joke, but she's like, "She did say that she had one too."
Yes.
But can you imagine
And she was hung for that, for
the
making it.
weirdness of all your women in the neighborhood visiting your dead body and
Yeah,
looking at it?
yeah. For and there nobody knows what they call them devil's teat marks. It's any part on
Yeah.
your body where the devil can come nurse,
Mhm.
basically. But it's really just any I guess anytime you have a baby or any it can be any mark.
It could be stretch marks.
Yeah,
It could be skin
a
tags
wart,
because 'cause they're
anything.
older women. These are
Yeah,
like,
they could get these weird things I have growing that are all of a sudden.
well, all these weird things like, if you search me, I'm in trouble.
I know, but don't say that because that's got that lady hung.
But it is weird that why does Sarah Bridgman now witch stuff has been happening so much that they I guess searching women is a common thing to have people do.
Yeah, because if
Want
you
your
get
search.
one witch hung based on a witch mark, then you
Yeah.
why not 2 or 3 more, right?
So take Mary Parsons and search her 3 times. That's what they want her to do. Um, and this is happening Windsor, again, they're hanging witches actively,
Yes.
and, so it's not just a mean thing to say.
No.
Down the river, they're being,
Yeah.
you know, um, so that's weird. Tell me to stop if you want me
Keep
to.
going.
So here's
Got
Ann
the whole
Bartlett.
town talking about her. The
Yeah, so
whole
here's Ann Bartlett. These are the same people that a few months ago did this to Mary Parsons. But
Yes.
they must be feeling pretty heady that, they can get attack this well-off lady, this Mary Bliss Parsons.
Yeah, I think they found that it works, and yeah. The
Yeah. So Ann Bartlett walks in. She says that the child of Sarah Bridgman, and I think Ann Bartlett is a midwife because they seem to put a lot of stock in what she says. But the child of Sarah Bridgman, when she last lay in, was sick as soon as it was born, insomuch that it did groan something much. And Ann Bartlett testified that a little while after she went to see the said Sarah and asked how her child did, Sarah told her that her child had the looseness still, which it had at first, and it continued. And she said, "I fear it will be the death of my child." Ann Bartlett said she watched the child of Sarah Bridgman the same night the child died. And Sarah Bridgman said it's that looseness. So I guess they bring Ann Bartlett in as the midwife to say, yeah, the child was doing poorly, but she doesn't exactly attach it to Mary. But she's
No,
testifying for Sarah.
but it does work to, and that's a really, really sad trend they have is that if you have a sick baby or a deformed baby, even going back to Roxbury with Mary Dyer, right? The two-headed baby, monster
Mm.
baby, that it was a god punishment from God, basically.
Oh.
Something wasn't right with God.
Oh.
So, that's could she could have been saying that.
And the looseness is that just something is strange with the
It's
baby?
dysentery. I looked it up. It
Okay.
so it had diarrhea really bad.
So just sort of withered away almost.
Yeah, which is, I think, also what happened to Mary Lewis Parsons'
I
baby.
do too, because they talked about it shriveling.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So either there's something in the breast milk or the water or something.
Well, it is weird as you go through this. You'd mentioned it before, but people speculate that something really bad was there in the swamp,
Yes.
like
Mhm.
naturally, organically bad.
I wonder. I do wonder.
I do too. Um, okay, so here's John Matthews, our Pentecost, who was kind of
Yeah.
a voice of reason during all this. Um, John Matthews said he has no grounds to suspect Mary Parsons to be a witch. And what he testified yesterday was upon the earnest importuning of James Bridgman and his brother. John Matthews affirms that he was at work at Joseph Parsons' house. There came a great clap of thunder suddenly, whereas Mary Parsons, with a fright, fell down in a swoon in my sight. What he's basically saying is the two brothers really asked him to declare what he saw and to kind of make it seem like it was bad, but doesn't seem like he'd do it.
And what's interesting about him is he was one of the key witnesses at the Mary Parsons. She's the one that I know we're talking about two Mary Parsons, Mary Bliss Parsons today, Mary Lewis
Yeah.
Parsons. Mm. He was the one that she pulled aside and confided that Hugh was a witch. And so he testified. So I wonder if he himself had a little bit of like, that went too far. Here comes another one. I'm not going to get, that's just crazy. There's a logical reason.
I
Um,
wonder
he
too.
was also a really heavy drinker.
Oh,
Just
really? Well, and he's got this, I think so too. Otherwise, you do see a few people along here hedging their bets a little bit. Like
Mhm,
one guy says, I will not declare an oath to this, but I'll tell you what I think.
mhm.
So some people there's a few, but not enough, you know?
Yeah. So that's
Um,
interesting. I didn't put that together that he
yeah,
gung ho in the first one, but was stepping back on this. And again, this is a bliss. This is
yeah. And John Pynchon is the one taking these
yes,
records. So,
right.
do you want John Pynchon to think you're crazy or a
Yeah,
Simon demon?
and let's just say this about John Pynchon now. So
Yeah, please.
Um, William Pynchon, the father, had just left, right? He wrote a book. The book, did you know that his book was the first book burned in America? Like, had book burning on his book. It was that. So William Pynchon is gone, the founder of Springfield. John Pynchon, his son, is now in charge. And so he's you would be nervous then to go in front of John Pynchon, the son. He's way more business minded, and he's the one that bankrupts half these people. He's the one that, you know, is ruling
And
in their life,
he's
basically.
also the one with the really sick wife that spent a year down with
Yeah,
those people, and he's always looking for drugs and medicine and right?
I think so.
In all
Yeah,
his letters, like Miles Morgan came to his house and,
yeah,
they had that guy, the charcuterie Chickasegee.
yeah, the surgeon,
Yeah,
Churton. Yeah,
so
so
yeah, he's
anyway,
a
that's
different
interesting.
guy.
He's testifying. So last time he would have testified, maybe would have been in front of William. And
Yes,
this time he's testifying in front of John, who John is more, you know, logical,
he is, and he's got stuff
less
going on in
religious.
Barbados
Yeah,
and
he's definitely not his dad was highly religious, and I think he was more, you
he's
know,
probably not as indebted to, Winthrop.
I
And
don't
he's
know.
and he's had think about it, his dad left in what kinda bad circumstances along with the witches.
Yeah,
And
And then the
then
Moxon's gonna leave, I don't know if he's gone by now, but, and then also his sister leaves, goes back to England, so his whole family's kinda leaving him, and right about this time,
wow.
I think this is when the beaver pelts were kinda wearing out, and they
Okay.
were having to sell land, so there's he's involved in these people's lives in their daily transactions of land transactions, and so to testify in front of him when you're not quite sure where he stands on this witchcraft stuff would make you kinda be like, "Well."
Yeah. I just it's that is great context because yeah, a lot and they did say after William Pynchon left and Moxon left, Springfield never really again had a steady, preacher, a steady
Right,
reverend. They wouldn't stick around.
right.
So it's already kinda developing this taboo place,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I can see why they call it the hub of the witch trials, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so now we've got next to step up is our pudding friends.
I love them so much.
So Robert Bartlett stands up and says that George Langton, he's the pudding guy, right?
Mhm, they
Who
spell it
they
with a C here, but that's who he is.
they were laughing in the kitchen and doing the sausage or yeah, the pudding thing. So George Langton was gossiping and told Robert Bartlett last winter that Goody Bridgman and Goody Branch were speaking about Mary Parsons concerning her being a witch. And George Langton said to Robert that my wife being there, she could not think of it. And Goody Bridgman seemed to be distasted with us. Also, they had hard thoughts of the wife of Robert because she was intimate with Mary Parsons. So you've got outright
Wow.
gossiping happening,
Yeah, petty, petty, petty.
and George wouldn't do it, right? Is that
Yeah,
how you read it?
yeah. 'Cause I think that some people had a bad taste in their mouth for it. They
They
knew how
had to
this where
have.
this went.
I mean, think about you're talking about your pudding coming out of the oven and laughing with friends, and then that woman's being carted off and to
Right,
die.
right. And Bess Sewell, who was at the pudding thing too, was carted off. She didn't die, but
She was? That's what I
mhm.
was wondering.
She and Sarah Merrick, 'cause
So that's
Mary
before.
yeah, so Mary Lewis Parsons accused Bess Sewell and, Hannah Merrick, Thomas Merrick's wife.
Hmm,
It might Sarah Merrick, I keep calling her Hannah. Hannah's the daughter, Sarah's his wife. She and, Bess so 4, yeah, Hugh, Mary, Sarah, and Bess carted off. And so that was she was the pudding she was the first lady that showed up summoned by the pudding. So,
right.
yeah,
So
interesting.
there are some people taking a step back. Um, then Hannah Langton says that's true, that we didn't believe it. And then she says, now here's the lusty Hannah that took off the pudding and put it back in the fire and tried to find the witch, testified upon oath that the child of Sarah Bridgman, um, who was when she last lay in, she being her neighbor, so they lived next door to her, came to dress the child not long after she had been brought a bed, and that the child of the said Sarah had a looseness and thought they'd taken it cold. And Sarah told her, my child is altered, and that the clothes were loose about it, and she feared um, the lower part of the child's body was cold. So obviously losing weight.
Yeah. Ugh,
So
terrible.
And so all these people are testifying about the sick baby, which in the other trials, you don't get this much talk about the sick baby.
You had the Moxon girls. I mean, it does seem like the way to really get things moving in a the thing that gets the most attention is about kids or babies.
Right.
But, yeah, with Hugh, it was the women that yeah, they
Well, it
would
was
get
his
it was mostly
reaction
people
to a
getting
baby's
sick.
death.
Yeah. And it was that he yelled at me and I got sick that night, or it
Yeah.
was other things. It was
Yeah.
knives on tables and beef
Cows.
tongues. Yeah. Yeah, oxen getting sick.
And there's a lot of that here too. The men will all come start talking about cows in a minute. But um then Hannah Broughton was testified. She remembered that. So all the women in the childbirth room. So Sarah Bridgman obviously is is making a case for blaming Mary for the death of her child, because she brought in like 6 women plus the midwife. The child was sick before the time. She said Sarah having no nurse, she and Hannah Langton were often there to look to the woman and child, and that the child was ill right before it was born. So she's trying to make a case, but she's not doing
Yeah.
a very good job of it, because we never see Mary. We never see Mary Bliss Parsons at the childbirth room, right?
No.
So here's Mary Bliss is testifying now to Sarah Bridgman's suspicions.
Okay.
Margaret Bliss, this is the mother defending Mary Parsons. Is this boring?
No, keep going.
Because these are all our people coming back.
Yeah.
Here's the mother saying, Sarah Bridgman told the mother that she heard that her daughter, Parsons, was suspected to be a witch, and then she had heard that there was some discontent between the blind man at Springfield and her daughter, and that she had done him hurt, and that there were words between the blind man and her daughter, and the child of the blind man had a sounding fit.
Interesting.
So Sarah Bridgman reminds me a lot of Mary Lewis, how she's going around spreading these weird rumors.
Yes.
Even telling the mother that your
It just
child's
seems
a
like
witch.
that's kind of if you want an incentive to get rid of the town gossip or the town pot stir.
So anyway, here we've got Goodwife Wright, the wife of Samuel Wright Jr., who we know is Abigail Burt.
Yes, it is.
One of our lascivious women.
Yes.
So Goodwife Wright said that when she was at Goody Parsons' house, she told her that Goodwife Moulton said she would make candles for her. So this is this whole thing where
It's
it's the stupidest
so
thing I've
dumb.
ever heard.
It's like Secret Wives of
It
Mormon
is.
Housewives or whatever. I heard her say that she was gonna make her candles.
So Abigail's there with Mary Bliss Parsons. They're hanging out, and Abigail Wright says, I heard that Goodwife Moulton's going to make you candles, half for me and half for you. And Goodman Webb and his wife were there, and they said that Mary Parsons said that to them too. So Mary Parsons is telling people Moulton's going to make us candles. Who cares?
I know.
Goodwife Moulton was spoken to about this business in the presence of John Webb and denied it. And she never said that to Goodwife Parsons. Richard Lyman affirmed that Goodwife Moulton denied it, so that it's a mad lie of Goodwife Parsons. So we start to see some enmity that may have to do with, and we're going to learn that Mary Parsons had some faults.
Elizabeth Burt, that's married to Samuel. This is actually more interesting. So Abigail Burt testified in Hughes. Elizabeth Wright, is now testifying in the Bliss, the other Bliss girl. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So the Burts this is their generation.
So then at the same time, though, they bring in Richard Lyman, and he stands up for Goodwife Parsons. So you've got some back and forth with people saying, yeah, I was there and that's not a big deal. Here's about more fits. Okay, so Richard Sykes affirms on oath that in 1652, so that same year that of the witch trial, he was at separate Goodman Coltman's. Samuel Bliss came in and said his sister, Mary Parsons, so another of Margaret's children, was run down the meadow. So she ran to the meadow, whereupon I went forth with Goodman Colton, and we overtook her presently, she being fallen down in one of her fits. And we brought her in and laid her on the bed, and she would look fearfully sometimes as if she saw something, and then bow down her head as others did in their fits about that time. So there's a pattern to the fits. So is it the witchy fits? Like she'd
I don't
bow her head?
know. I don't know, and this is the same Mary Bliss Parsons, right?
Yeah.
Who's doing this?
Yeah.
Boy, she was having a hard time.
Yeah. I mean, her brother, Samuel Bliss, had to come into Goodman Colton's and say, my sister's running down to the meadow. Come help me.
Yeah.
And so she's having a really hard time. But it says, and that's as others did in their fits about that time, but she's not the only one.
Mhm.
And there's a pattern to it.
Mhm.
So what is going on?
I don't know.
Um, so here's John Matthews again. He was at Joseph Parsons' house making barrels, and there was an argument between Joseph and his wife, Mary. And he said to Mary that she was led by an evil spirit. Thereupon, Mary said he was the cause of it by
Yeah.
locking her into the cellar and leaving her.
Mhm.
So we're seeing something about Joseph and Mary Parsons that's
Yeah, it's
not
very
so high
abusive.
class.
Yes.
Joseph Parsons said further that she went over the water and Colton after her, and she was not wet. Only Goodman Colton was wet. And she said also that when her husband locked her into the cellar was full of spirits, and she threw the bedstaff at them and the bedclothes and her pillow, and
So
yet
she's
they would
sleeping
not.
in she's sleeping in the cellar.
He's
He's
put her
locked her in the
bed
cellar.
in there,
She's got her beds in there.
and her bedclothes and her pillow. She's literally locked down there with how many kids running around?
So that's probably the key she keeps finding. Get out of the
Oh, to
cellar.
get out of the cellar. Maybe she's having the kids bring it to her.
Probably.
Who's feeding her kids when she's locked in the cellar? And then he says, and from this time she told one, it was that she fell in her fits some days after. Wait, okay. So she's down in the cellar. Goodman Colton said she would throw all these bedclothes at them and the spirits would not be gone. And from this time, she told one it was that she fell into her fits some few days after. She, the said Mary Parsons, told me that spirits appeared to her like poppets as she was washing her clothes at the brook. And then she fell into her fits. Mary Parsons then told me that in her fits, she had gone from her house in the long meadow through the great swamp in her shift. And when she came to herself, she could not tell how she came thither.
Boy, I would love to know if this was all one episode that many people saw, and so that's why we have so many accounts, or if this was something that was happening often.
I
The only
wonder if it
difference
was
is
one, because Colton, there's like different people talking about Colton saying he didn't get wet, but she did.
yeah. The only difference is, like, in some, there's a woman with her, which I guess could have been the same one too. Maybe somebody was
Well, I would
but
think if Margaret, her mother, is living right next door and the brother's coming to find her, they must all be on high alert that
yeah.
she's doing this. And why the swamp?
They lived right there. They're in Longmeadow. So
Oh,
everything's a swamp. I don't know, but she's a highly abused, sad woman.
yeah. Let's see if I can. So then the other people are talking about the boy,
Yeah.
um,
Ow.
the cow. And then you've got another guy who testified that James Bridgman hired the wife and husband to go to Springfield to give their testimony, or else they would not have gone, but they were
Mhm.
paid.
Paid witnesses, yeah.
So here's John Pynchon defending Goodwife Parsons. So he said, being requested by Goodwife Parsons to give this testimony that gave me an occasion to say, He said, I accordingly declare I never said any such word, neither do I remember any reports that I've heard which have given me occasion to speak any such words of Goodwife Parsons. So that's pretty strong.
Yeah, he's basically having his opinion override all the witnesses, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, which just shows his idea of himself and the authority over everybody and
Yeah.
also not wanting to do the same thing
No.
again. And she's a Bliss, blah, 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 she's a Bliss.
Well, and at the same time, then Simon gets up and he
Yes, this
talks
is
about
what
Moxon and what we started with, which, and then you think about John Pinch and how embarrassing that is for him, that his dad, William, was so in with Moxon, and now everyone's having these fits, and his dad left him to deal with it.
yeah.
Okay.
So I wonder if this is a different set of Moxon kids. So the 2 girls that died when it was a Hugh Parsons getting blamed, and now he's got more kids, or are they talking about before they got sick? I think this is what that is. They're rewriting history a little bit. They used these 2 little
Oh,
girls when they were sick to blame her, Mary Bliss Parsons, but they used the same sickness of these little girls to also accuse Hugh Parsons,
you're right.
not related Parsons. Yeah.
And you're right. I think what they're trying to do, Simon Beeman he's good at like putting clues together in his own
Yeah.
way.
And I do think he has has a cause. He's, passionate about the whole
Which,
witchcraft,
okay,
which is weird because
which
yeah,
is interesting
Maris is
because
Alice Young's daughter.
he's going to marry the first witch
Mhm.
executed in Connecticut, her daughter,
Yeah,
who, so what happens is the court said, um, they said that they, they, they found for Mary Bliss Parsons and said, this is defamation. They found against the Bridgmans. James Bridgman will have to pay damages to the plaintiff, 10 pounds sterling, which is reminiscent of the widow Marshfield getting that
right.
slander against her. Um, so, which brings me to 1654. So we've got Mary Bliss Parsons right after this. She and Joseph move up to Northampton. Um, and, not right after this, but during all this,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
The suit doesn't come up until 1656. But I'm giving the story of what this neighborhood was like in that time period. 1654, we've got Prudence Morgan and Miles Morgan living in Springfield. We've got this witchcraft stuff still brewing. And in Windsor, we have Lydia Gilbert,
Yeah.
who is charged with um, witchcraft. And this is the Lydia Gilbert who we believe is related to Prudence Morgan in some way. So if
Yeah.
you want to hear more about that, go to our episode on Prudence.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you want me to tell a story?
yeah, will you tell it?
Does that keep you on track?
Yeah, that keeps us on track because we're gonna tell the story of
Lydia.
Gilbert, mhm,
Yeah. So Thomas Gilbert
who is our grandmother, right? Too?
yeah.
Hmm.
Thomas Gilbert is he was married. I won't tell the whole we've talked about it before, but Lydia is his second wife. So he has a daughter that we don't know if she's still around or not, but he marries Lydia. He buys land in Windsor from Styles, not Harry Styles, Henry Styles, who's older. He's like in his 50s. And the deal is that they can buy this land. I think they get a good deal on it. But Henry Styles wants to still be the boarder. He's going to board with them. So she's going to do so Lydia Gilbert, this new wife, Thomas's new wife, is going to cook and clean and basically associate with this Henry Styles in their house. So for whatever reason, one day Henry Styles goes to the green field in town in Windsor to do militia training. And this is not in 1654, this is like 1651, right?
Yeah, right
And,
around that same yep.
a young boy named Matthew, it might be Thomas Allen, young Allen boy, his gun goes off accidentally, and shoots Henry Styles, and he dies. So it's sad, it's tragic. I think I told this in the last episode, but and I can cut it out if not. And it's sad. So this gun went off, it shot Henry Styles, he's gone. Um, Thomas Allen is sued. He had his dad, who's fancy, pays the debt or whatever. And then Thomas and Lydia kind of move up the road
Mhm.
a little bit. And then 3 years later, and this is where I think the man world and the debts and all these things get
Yeah.
involved, the financial things get involved. They decide, "No, no, 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 Thomas Allen's gun didn't accidentally fire that day. It was actually Lydia Gilbert, who wasn't anywhere near there, had used witchcraft to set the gun off." And so they had a full-on trial with witnesses and other evidence that they don't tell us about of witchcraft, and she actually gets hung for making this gun go off a mile from her home during a militia training, a young kid with a gun. She's blamed for it, and she's hung.
Yeah, and she's one of the first witches to
Yeah.
be hung.
In Windsor, which is the same place they hung Alice Young, and so
Mhm.
Thomas Gilbert moves to Springfield. He eventually marries Catherine Bliss. Catherine Chapin Bliss. He
Yeah.
marries a Bliss. Yeah. So
So they talk about Lydia Gilbert. So the town of Windsor has since exonerated her,
mhm,
but what we thought was interesting is we wondered why her husband, and it's Thomas, right?
mhm. I know there's so
Thomas
many.
shows up a few months after his wife is hung in the town square. I mean, literally, they put a ladder against a tree. Someone hefts her over his shoulder. He walks up the ladder. They stand there. The preacher yells stuff to him. She might say final words, maybe. And then they push her. And in front of the whole town, children, everyone hears the creak of her hanging, and they don't die right away.
Mm-mm.
They strangle for a while, and in
On
fact, a lot
purpose.
of the
They want
court.
that. They don't want it to be a quick, easy death. Yeah.
Yeah, she has to hang there till she dies.
Mhm.
Then they'll cut her down and just throw him in a field. They don't get a Christian burial, which was why you can get neighbors going to the body and checking it
Right,
out.
checking it out.
Um, but we have Thomas Gilbert, and we know based on our web that we've won, or the fabric we've woven about his family, is that his mom and dad were there and watched it. He had two brothers there that watched it. Um, and where does he go? He goes to Springfield, and he moves in right next to Prudence and Miles Morgan. And we
Mhm.
always wondered at the beginning of all this, why would a town like Springfield in 1654 in the big witchcraft stuff allow a man to enter their town after his wife had just been hung for witchcraft? I mean, we saw
And to marry the deacon's daughter.
and marries the deacon's daughter.
The Catherine Chapin Bliss is not only, so you have Catherine Chapin, Samuel Chapin's the big fancy statue of him on the town square,
Right.
deacon, and she had been married to Nathaniel Bliss, who is a Bliss, right? And so this Thomas Gilbert, whose wife just got hung for witchcraft, should be super scandalous, stink all over him,
Yeah.
moves into town, and gets to marry Catherine Chapin Bliss.
And be
And
the
why?
stepdad to the 4 kids of this
Yes,
beloved Nathaniel Bliss,
he's raising Bliss children that he ends up loving and leaves money to, and
and they'll have children, and,
yeah.
you have to believe it was on the good words of, well, the Chapin, but you have to believe Miles and Prudence must have smoothed the way a little bit for him.
Oh, for sure.
You look at this town, Widow Marshfield couldn't, come into town unscathed.
No.
Um, and then what's also interesting at the same time is, uh, Lydia Gilbert is indicted in Windsor, and 2.5 weeks later, Simon Beeman travels down to Windsor and marries the daughter of the first witch in the colonies to get hung, who was
Mhm.
Alice Young. He marries Alice Young's daughter, who was 7 years old when she watched her mother get hung. And so it's a weird combination to me. Simon, who's this so active in horses are bewitched and everything's bewitched and Mary
Yeah.
Parsons is bewitched. How do you be a husband? They had 12 kids, but how do you be a husband to, the stain of witchcraft will stay on them? I don't
Yeah.
understand it. It's very interesting to me.
His wife is later accused of being a witch, and he
Okay.
is he accused of being a witch? Or their kid, one of their sons is accused of being a witch? Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, I wondered how the town. So now at this period of time with Mary Bliss Parsons and everybody, there's 2 real witches, daughter of a witch and a husband of witches back in their town,
Mhm.
and they're sort of blended into it.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah, so
weird.
this is right at this time. This is right at this time that we're talking about with the defamation case of Mary Bliss Parsons. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And what's interesting is if you look at the babies being born in Springfield in the year after the Lydia Gilbert hanging, um, there's 4 babies named Lydia,
yeah,
which
and
kind of
Miles Morgan's baby is named
one of
Lydia.
Miles Morgan's, I think a Bliss baby. So it kind of tells you um, that some people in town at least are not happy with what's going
Right,
on.
and they're kind of honoring her.
Yeah.
I do believe that
So
names were so important that
yeah,
you didn't waste a name. Every you know, names were not wasted, so
right. So I guess we can. I think at this point we can move into that area. We're moving towards the King Philip's War.
do you
What
wanna do that? I think that should be another episode. I
I
think we
do
have one
too.
more episode in us
I
to
do too.
finalize it, tell
Yeah.
how everything happens, because that was
Mhm.
perfect. We needed to talk about our Springfield witches for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we had, I mean, 3. Lydia Gilbert was executed. She's one of our grandmothers. Mary Bliss Parsons was accused. She's one of them.
Mhm.
And, then we had the Salem ones.
Yeah,
So no
we had
wonder we're
John Willard.
angry. No wonder we're angry. That explains it.
I know. And no wonder it's just so fascinating, and to really the thing that's you can't I don't know, they didn't know this at the time, but if they could look if all this group of people, even to the governors and the magistrates and the accusers and the victims, all of them end up being related somehow. They all end up marrying this person and that person, and so if you are us at this time and you're looking backwards, you're like, "Well, that daughter ends up marrying the son of the" it's just so the web of it is so interesting how these people are just so related, you know,
Yeah.
and, connected and affecting each other that and yet they I don't know,
It
just
is like
something
a
to think
soap
about.
opera. It's like
Yeah,
a reality show with people you don't know if you like or not.
right. Oh, I
And
have to go.
anyway,
come in. Oh, you're here. Hi. We're just done, almost done. Are you okay? Okay, I'll come talk to you.
Okay. Well,
All
thanks for
right.
joining us today. So we got through our witches in Springfield, and we're moving on to Springfield does have a day of reckoning for
Yes,
this
it
time.
does. It
So,
does. In this whole area, yes. Big
mhm,
changes coming.
mhm.
And yeah, that was so good, Ken. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be done with my boring timelines now.
They're not at all. That was because really when we talk about how this all wraps up,
Yeah.
all that is really important, especially I mean Beeman ends up over in Beeman ends up in Deerfield. I mean it's
Yeah.
like the mystical part solidifies into an actual violence and
Totally. It
you know.
becomes anthropomorphized or whatever it
Yes.
is.
Yes, yes.
It becomes a real thing.
The
They
thing
kill
they were
them.
trying to do this whole time, and it actually rears its head.
Yeah.
So that was
It's a
so
great
good.
Hollywood ending for this group of people.
Yes. All
Okay.
right. Well, thank you. I have weird sun now.
So I will
Okay.
see you. Well, we'll be in town late tomorrow night.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I'll
Stop.
see you then.
Okay. I love you.
I love you too.
Okay,
Thanks.
bye.
Bye.